You're going to learn how to cut this maxi gown, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Welcome. We are going to cut off shoulder maxi gown, but before we dive into that, let me quickly render this little apology. Right now I'm going to contour the floor because I don't have a table yet. I'm still schooling, so I've not been able to settle down to set up my shop. Okay, let's dive into the matters of the day. We are going to cut off shoulder maxi gown. My client says she doesn't want it to be too big or too small. She don't want something fluid, something she can walk easily without zip on the back. So what I'm going to do is to add elastic on the shoulder to enable her wear it easily. I'm going to use for the work is a 2 yards material, white. So the first thing to do to make sure of is to make sure that you are using the back when you want to cut. You cut with the back. So right now, okay, this is the back. So you set it into two. Make sure your line are equal here. This is very necessary that they are equal at the edge. So make sure they're equal here also. Very necessary. Okay. Our measurement for the hip. Our hip measurement is 44. Because of the fact that she said that she doesn't want it to be too big or too tight and it must not have a zip on the back, we have to add a little bit of allowance to it. So what I'm going to do now is to measure the material to know the length of the material we have right now. Okay, so you can fold it into 4. You can fold it into 4. That's what most people do. You fold it into 4. It will be easy to cut when you fold it into 4. So as I've told you before, her hip is 44. Because it's a massive free gown, you make sure that the length of the material is more than her hip, so that she can have this freeness in her. So when you divide 44 by 4, it will give you 11. So the circumference is 11. Then we now have the allowance. The extra allowance I'm going to add to it is 4. Our full length is 58. So I've told you before that our full length is 58. Up we get that our full length is 58. So what I'm going to do is to measure the full length. The material is not even equal. No, it's not. So to measure our full length, to make sure that it's up to the length of the material. So you see 58. This 58 is where our length is. But we need to add allowance to fold it inside, the hemi allowance. So this one will now be the hemi allowance, making it 2 inches. 2 inches for the hemi allowance. 2 inches is enough so that you can have something to fold it inside to give you this neat edge, to make sure that everywhere is always equal. But if you turn the material this side now, it's not equal because of the way the material was cut. It's not my fault, it's the fault of the dealer of the material. So what I'm going to do is to cut the extra part, because such things are not necessary for your work. If you cut it like that, it might make it to be too short or too long in some side, so we don't need that. See, now you now have the straight edge. So next you need to do now is to measure our shoulder. Our shoulder is, remember I told you that it's off shoulder we are sewing. So, and the off shoulder, I also told you that we are going to add elastic to it. So what I'm going to do now is to remove the extra inches for the elastic. Let's say put 2 inches. to remove 2 inches for the elastic. 2 inches for the elastic. There we go. Then next, what you need to do next is to measure the neck. Since the measurement of our off shoulder is 44, so what you need to do is to measure 44. You use, since you put the material into 4, you cut it by, and you know there's going to be elastic on the shoulder, so you need to add an allowance to it to make sure the neck can be wide enough for the material to pass our body easily. So you cut it to be wide, to be very wide. The normal allowance is supposed to be 6. The normal measurement of our shoulder is supposed to be 6, but because of the elastic we are going to have and the allowance we need in it, we are going to add extra 3 inches, extra 4 inches to it. You can see now it's 10. The shoulder is 10. The mark. Then you cut. You know, the reason why this other allowance is here is because of the elastic I'm adding. That's why this extra allowance is here. So you mark. Okay, so we have measured it. So now what is left to be cut now is the armhole. No, we are moving extra inches. So the normal inches I do remove for my off shoulder is 4 because of the length you want it to be. So I move 4 for the off shoulder. Then you know I'm adding extra 2 extra allowance for it to enable me have this elastic on it, which is going to be like this. So technically this is the right size of the off shoulder to our normal armhole, which is 8. So in reality now the off shoulder measurement is 4. You can see 4. So what I do, since I'm cutting manually with my hand, I drive the off shoulder hole for it. You know it's going to be a straight cloth, that's why here is straight. Then you cut that. You see, if you notice now, I'm not cutting directly from the allowance. I'm going to give it some extra allowance.
Yes.
Make sure everything is equal. Okay, so now what is next to cut now is to measure the bust. Our bust measurement is 38. So what we have to do now is cut 38 plus all the necessary allowance. I've told you before that, remember I told you before that it's necessary that you measure the hip because it's a maxi gown, it's a maxi free gown, so it's the hip that is really necessary. Right now the bust is not necessary, and there's going to be allowance on it, and there's going to be a belt to hold it on the waist. So right now the bust measurement is not really necessary. You can do without measuring the bust. I can sew without measuring the bust. As long as I've gotten the circumference of the hip, I'm good to go. but because of I'm going to put this video out for teaching sake, I want to measure the bust allowance so as you can know, in case you want to sew your own, you can know what to add up. So you see 38, so our bust is 38, which is 9.5. Yeah, so if you are sewing a normal gown, this is where the bust is minus the seam allowance, but because it's a maxi free gown, we are going to add the allowance is going to be here. We are going to move it from here and give it a little bit of shape, to this side till we go to the hip side, and there's going to be pockets on the dress. So what I'm going to do now is to give it a little bit of shape here. Look, I'm measuring the waist. I'm measuring the waist. The waist of an average adult is 7 half cuts. These are half cuts. You know, the waist, in case there's going to be an half cut, this is it. This is the waist. The waist of an average adult is 17. If the person is tall, but if the person is shorter, it's going to be 16. But this my client is tall, so I left it at 17. See, the mark now is 17. So I'm going to shape it now a little bit from here. I'm going to give it a little bit shape here, because the pocket, since I'm adding pocket to it, pocket is going to start from here to 7. The pocket is going to start from, so I'm going to give it a little bit of allowance here to this place. Now I'm going to measure the pocket. The measurement of the pocket is 7. So you see from here to here, 7. Then I'll trim here. I'll trim from here. The reason why I'm trimming is because you know that the upper side of the body is always smaller than the hip. So our bust is 38, our hip is 44. So if you notice that the up is smaller, so I just want to give it a little bit of shape. At least, even though it's going to be free gown, at least it's still going to be a bit shapy, because it doesn't want to be too free, not too tight. So when you have measured the pockets, you launch. So that you can know where to sew it. You launch a bit. Then you come to the other side, you launch also. Launch it a bit. Remember the armhole, I not cut it completely because I left some seam allowance to it. I left some seam allowance on it. So I'm going to leave it like this, because when I'm going to sew, I'm going to sew, and there needs to be some allowance for it to hold the material. So that's why I left this thing. Don't forget that. You see the place I marked it, but that's not where I cut it for. So now what is next to cut is the sleeve of the cloth. There is many. This is the extra that is many from the material. This is the extra that is many from the material. When we cut, she did not bring a lot of material, so we are going to make do of what she have. So it's very necessary that when you want to cut, you pay attention to the pattern. If you notice now, the length which we cut the gown is straight. The stripe, the mark on it is straight. There's a straight stripe on it. But when we now want to cut the hand, if we want to make it a straight stripe also, the material will not be enough to cut the sleeve, because there's going to be elastic on the shoulder. So we need a lot of material, and I'm not sure she will like it for it to be joined. So what we are going to do now is to cut it with the side. The material is not enough. It's just 3 as she brought. So we are going to use the sides to cut it. Cut it with this the side of the material. The stripe is going to go sideways, while the other the one of the guy is going to go down. It's not our fault, it's the fault of the material. It's not enough, we are managing it. But when you want to cut, if the material is enough, pay attention to the pattern. Make sure that the pattern are going the same way. It's very good. It makes your work to be neat. So now it's time to cut the material and the sleeve. But first of all, there's going to be belt, so I think it's best I remove the belt, the material from the belt, because if it's obvious the material is not going to be enough, we are going to manage it. So I think I'll have to remove the belt. If not, we'll cut it like this, we might not have the belt. So I think the length of the belt length, we are going to, the length I'm going to use for the belt is 6. This is enough. So if you fold it into 2, it's going to be 3. It's going to be 3 because of the sewing allowance. But should make it 5 because the material is not enough. Make it 5. The half inches will now be for the seam allowance. The seam allowance will be half inches, so we'll now use the minimum for the belt. Should make it 5. The material is not enough. So to make it easier to cut, I think I'll just fold it into 2. I'll fold it into 2 to make it easy for me to cut. Fold it into 2 and so see, I want to make sure that they are equal. Good. I think it's equal. It's always good that you make sure that they are equal. Good. Always make sure they are equal. It's very necessary. If your work are not equal, will give you a rough. When you sew, the line will not be straight. That is a bad work. The details will not be clear. So you are seeing this is the material we use for the belts, for the waist belt, because she said she wants them to be a waist belt. This is the many pieces we have from the material. So now it's time for the sleeve too. So what you do, I remember I told you to always make sure you see the back or the front. So this is the back of the material, this is the front. So what I'm going to do is to fold the remaining one into 2. Fold it into 2. See? Then fold it now into 4 for both arms. Fold it into 4 for both arms. Remember there's going to be elastic, so as long as there's going to be elastic, the measurement should be double of what you are cutting. Normally the measurement should be 6, but because of the fact that there's going to be an elastic, we need to make it 12. We need to double the measurements of it because of the elastic that's going to be on the shoulder. Remember we did it before on the top, on the gown, the shoulder of the gown. So now we are making it 12. Making it 12. Then here will now be the allowance for the armhole. So this is it. We fold it into 4. Remember there's going to be elastic on the arm, so on top of the arm. So I'm still going to remove that, say 2 inches I removed when I was cutting the gown. Remember, this is 2 inches. The length of the gown ordinarily should be 8. The length of the arm of the gown, it should be 8. The shoulder is now going to be 10. 10 is now going to be 10. There's going to be elastic on the shoulder, on the up of the arm and the down of the arm. So there's the normal length, because of the normal length is 8, but there's going to be elastic on the so let me remove the 2 inches for the up first of all, so I will understand better what I'm saying. You see, the 2 inches for the allowance. So ordinarily when you fold it like this, you have 8. See, you notice that it's the same 8. Even if you fold it now, measure it from on top, it's going to be 8. Then even after you have, even when you move it, it's still the same 8. So that's why I moved this 2 inches. This is the normal length for the gown, for the arm. Then the down of the gown, there's the sleeve, sorry, there's still going to be another elastic at the arm, at the up and the down. That's the style. So we are going to remove another inches. This time it's going to be 1.5 inches. 1.5. Remember, this is normal length without the elastic. Because of the elastic we are going to put at the down. The down elastic is not going to be as big as the elastic for the up. The elastic for the down is not going to be as big as the elastic for the up. This is the down part of the dress. So that's why we are removing 1.5 for the down part of it. 1.5 inches. Then the remaining one are excess material, which I'm going to cut off. I'm going to cut that off, but not now. So now let's cut the armhole for the hand, since we have explained about the elastic part. Remember, I told you to always make sure your material are equal at the edge. It's very necessary that they are equal here to give you equal length of arm. You see, some people after sewing their material, their dress, the arm one will be longer than one. That's very bad. That's a very bad work. Cut this side open. Yes, we are good to go. Then remove the excess material. They are not equal. You know, when some of the dealers selling material, they don't sell it equal. Good. So remember, I told you make it double because of the allowance. So normally it's supposed to be 6, but because of the elastic I'm putting, I have to add extra, make all the measurement to be double for the shoulder. So now it's 12. So I measure, it's 12. Then remember, I told you you remove the normal allowance for the up, for the off shoulder. Normal allowance to remove from the off shoulder. We have removed 4. We remove 4 when we are cutting the gown, but this is the arm. So what we are going to remove from the arm is 3. Then first of all, let me remove the 2 inches for the elastic. Don't forget that. Don't always forget that we are removing 2 inches for the elastic. Hope you still remember that. 2 inches for the elastic. So now we measure our 3 inches elastic we are going to remove from the arm. Why I remove 3 inches for the arm and why I remove 4 inches for the gown and 3 inches for the arm is because, you know, the arm is always go up more than the body. You know, the gown, now she can decide to bring the gown on top of her bust, but the arm, she can still adjust the arm up. So if you notice, the arm is going to be shorter with 1 inch than the gown. That's why I remove 4 inches for the gown, 3 inches for the arm, for the off shoulder measurement. So this is the normal 2 inches for the elastic allowance. Then we now remove 3 inches now to give it. Remember, it's 8. So yeah, we measure and we cut.
Okay.
So we have measured it now. Time to cut. So it's time to cut now. Remember, I said you add allowance to it. One of the reasons why you need to add allowance is when you now fold it. If you cut it like this now, the material will not be equal again. There will be, this place will not shift. So always make sure you add allowance. You don't cut completely. You don't cut the arm completely. Let me quickly measure it with the gown, and so you notice that they are still equal. I hope you are noticing that they are equal. I hope you notice where they are measure it. I hope you notice now they are equal.
Yes.
So it's always necessary when you cut, make sure everything is equal. If you notice now, everything about mine is equal. Everything is equal. They're equal. It's very paramount that the materials are always equal. So now what you need to cut now is you need to balance it. Remember, I've not really trimmed it down, so now balance it down, part of it. Remember, this is the normal length of the gown, but because of the elastic, this is the extra allowance we add to it. So now we need to trim the extra one out. Remember, I've not trimmed the extra one out before. I've not trimmed the extra one out, so that's what I'm doing right now. So let's make sure you raise it up to make sure the line are equal. It's very necessary that the line are equal. That's it. We have gotten our arm for the dress. So this is the arm of the maxi gown. This is the arm of the maxi gown. So when we now add the allowance on the down, and we add the elastic on the up and the elastic on the down, we will now have this gathering ruffle style, something something like this. It will now be like gather the up, gather the down, then the hand will now be puffy. The hand is going to be this puffy kind of hand. Okay, so that's how to cut your maxi free gown. I'm going to upload another video on how to sew it. We have gotten our gown, we have the sleeve. It's going to be a bubble sleeve, full sleeve, and this is the belt. So this is the belt measurement is 5 inches. So when you sew it into 2, you can get your 2.5 inches then plus your seam allowance. So that's how you cut your maxi free gown, off shoulder, straight off shoulder maxi free gown.